Good evening to everyone.
Yes, sir.
My name is Amit Bhalerao. Next, say 1 hour or 1.5 hours, we are going to talk about budget this next financial year, that is starting from 2021, 2022. Okay, so let me just share. Okay, I'll just talk on budget and why it is the most important, part of our studies. Take any exam, starting from banking, PO, clerk, insurance. Then you have, you know, uh, regulators exams like RBI, NABARD. Then you have ILDI, SEBI. You have civil services like MPSC, UPSC. Take any exam. This budget for the current year and the previous year is very, very important and very crucial. Maybe may it be prelims or mains or interview, you have something there in the budget which will be important for you in any phase of the studies. So for whenever there is budget coming, all eyes of economists, academicians, and then foreign investors, domestic investors, they are always are very curious and very concerned about the budget. But I think the the most important, the critical stakeholder, and uh, the one who are waiting for this budget are the you know the people or the candidates who are studying for this competitive exams. So they are eagerly waiting for it, and they find it as a source of so many data points which can be used in their general studies, in their essay papers, or even while explaining their answers in the interview questions. Okay, so uh, before I start, let me just introduce myself. My name is Amit Bhalerao, and I am currently working with Reserve Bank of India in Mumbai Central Office. I was a student of uh, Chauhan sir, and we used to write. We used to go. It was an offline setup when things were not online, and we used to go to sir and write our answers, take the lectures of general study, paper 3, paper 4, then essay. We should ask him anything. Basically, he can guide you about anything in this competitive exam. So that is my introduction, and that is my um, interaction with sir. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity to talk on budget. Um, so I hope initial things are clear. Sound, video, everything is clear, right? There's no
Yes, sir.
connectivity
Everything is
problem.
clear.
Okay, voice is optimum. It's not too loud, not too low, right?
Yes, yes, it's okay. Yes, that's good.
Okay, cool. So now, as I said, this is the very important and the most, I think, probably the most important current event for that particular year for the people who are, going for the competitive exams. Now, what we need to do, budget is a big, document, and there's so many things. When the next day of a budget, you get a paper, newspaper, the whole paper is filled up with what has become costlier, what has become cheaper. Okay, for UPSC and for other competitive exams, it may not be that important, right? What is important for us is the background. Okay, what were the problems that we were facing? How are the problems of the country are, you know their address, or they are planning to address using the finances. At the end of the day, it's money which actually solves all the problem, right? So this budget, we are not going to focus on the on which particular sector they have increased the taxation or reduce the taxation. We are going to concentrate particularly on the policy or on the strategic level changes, or any vision they are looking for. So let's just start. I will share the screen with you, and you just let me know if it is fine. I'll just maximize it. Okay, can you see the PPT? Anyone can just say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, you can see it. Right. There we go. So in the next 1 hour, probably what we are going to see. Can you see me? I mean, the video is on.
No, we can see the PPT, sir.
Okay, fine. So in the next 1 hour, probably what we are going to see is what were the challenges before finance minister and the country as a whole. Then how she is addressed, what important areas she has selected, and what have she named them. What are the key highlights of this budget? Okay, and we are going to, there are 6 important pillars. We are going to discuss individually one by one. What are the pillars? What are the schemes into it? What are the reforms they are looking for it? And what are the allocations to the different, departments or to the different schemes? We're also going to see what is the fiscal position of the previous year and the next year, and some miscellaneous stuff like cess क्या होता है, surcharge क्या होता है, subsidies क्या होती है, and all that stuff. So you are a competitive exam, you're preparing for competitive exams, and you have Indian economy as a subject. So okay, and budget is a point, or which may come in your mains exam or interview. They may be asking different questions on the budgetarial aspects, right? Or economic aspect, growth aspect, GDP aspects. One of the very important thing and a crucial, starting point you have to, consider is GDP. That is a gross domestic product. So, क्या होता है gross domestic product? किसी भी country का एक particular time frame. So it's a 1 year time frame for us. Okay, within that that country's territory, whatever final goods and services are produced, uska value hota hai GDP. Okay, so budget. Okay, whenever budget is there, what are the important points, or for any, say for any company or for any country, उसका GDP वाढना चाहिए, त्याचं GDP वाढलं पाहिजे आणि त्याची ग्रोथ फास्ट झाली पाहिजे, राईट? So these are the very two important with the growth rate and the actual number. So if growth rate is fine and the base numbers are fine, then your GDP will look bigger. So what is GDP? GDP we calculate it by various approaches, but expenditure approach is the mostly used approach, right? So usme the definition is C plus G plus I plus NX. Okay, C is consumption, G is government spending, I is private investment, and NX is net exports. Okay, so you are in any phase of the any exam, okay, and you get to you are you need to answer certain questions about GDP or various schemes, or analyze particular sector, government's contribution to that. We always consider this GDP as a starting point. Okay, so अगर GDP बढ़ाना है तो क्या बढ़ाना है? C बढ़ाना है, that is consumption बढ़ाना है. Consumption is whatever we spend. So I am a consumer in this country. What I do, I buy a laptop, I buy a phone, I go and get a haircut, I go for a hoteling. So whatever I do, whatever I consume is part of this country's GDP. So if you're a finance minister, what you need to do in order to increase your GDP, at the end of the day, if you are a finance minister, your main purpose or the aim is to increase the GDP, right? So what you have to do, you have to increase these 4 components. That is consumption. We also call it as a demand. Okay, so consumption बढ़ाना है, then government spending. Now consumption कब बढ़ता है? When people have money in their hand. So when people have money, when they have jobs, they may have private jobs or they may have government jobs. Okay, so अगर government jobs create करने हैं government को, तो government have to spend, right? So जैसे UPSC का notification आता है हर साल, MPSC चं notification येतं दरवेळेस, बऱ्याचशा जागा खाली असतात, because government doesn't want to spend, right? So if government starts spending, people will get more jobs, people will have more disposable income, with them, and they can spend. And thus these, consumption, government spending, private investments, these are all interrelated. Okay, so in order to increase the GDP, government has to spend more, and they have to spend very judiciously so that the inflation won't increase. It's they have to create the capital assets. Capital create करना है, roads create करने हैं, infrastructure create करना है, ताकि now why they have to see government can spend on payroll, like लोगों का salary होता है, ठीक है? Then you have pension for the government employees. Okay, so ये spending से consumption बढ़ता है, but if the government spends on infra and equipments, it will actually have that trickle down theory, and that effect, and it will just increase that effect. So the government has to balance between the spending, that is on the revenue side spending, and the capital side spending. Okay, and third would be the private investments. As I said, आपको अगर consumption करना है, that is, you have to spend something. So you should have jobs. Now everybody would not get government jobs. No, most of the people are working in the private sector jobs. Private sector jobs are created by businessmen. The businessmen, what would they do? If they don't see demand, if say for any example, you take an example of mobile phones. Okay, if there is a demand, only then people or the companies will produce. Okay, now as you see, mobile demand has increased like anything. So many companies are investing into it. They're putting their money. Okay, and that is helping the GDP to increase, because अगर मोबाइल की एक कंपनी है, उसके बदले 3 कंपनीज आती है, सो यू विल गेट मोर जॉब्स देयर, बिकॉज सो मेनी पीपल विल गेट जॉब्स, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड जॉब्स, अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड जॉब्स, कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल जॉब्स. सो इसमें प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड नाउ फॉर अ जीडीपी टू ग्रो, द फोर्थ इंपॉर्टेंट point is your net export. So as I said, GDP is what you're doing within your territory, right? So export minus import is your net exports. So there's a, as you can see, this is a plus sign. Okay, it's adding to it. So if net exports are negative, it will reduce. That is, if you're an importing net importer, okay, then this GDP number will come down. So as a finance minister, you will always try to increase your exports and try to minimize or control your imports. Okay, so whenever you are approaching to study a budget, you should go from the starting point, that is GDP. And what are the components of the GDP? Consider yourself as a finance minister, and what would you do to increase these 4 components? So consumption, government spending, private investments. So the government should make businessmen to go ahead and go and establish companies, go for expansion as much as you can, because government cannot do everything, right? Gradually government is taking itself away from all sort of production and service industries. They just want to govern. They want private businessmen or private industry to take over all sort of stuff. So that is it. So you understood the basic concept of GDP, and how a finance minister should go ahead and work on these areas. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So challenges. Now you have seen what we have seen, what the whole world has seen in the year 2020. It was not that great year. It was very difficult for all the sectors. Instead of except for even for the healthcare, it was very, very difficult sector. I think probably pharma companies would be finding it a little cherishing, but other than pharma, most of the businesses, most of the strata of the societies, they found it a very, very difficult year to handle. And similar is the case with the government. So before going ahead with the budget, we should go and just try to analyze what were the challenges before our finance minister, what she had to do, what she faced, what a country faced. Okay, so as I said, you always whenever whatever question comes, right, with respect to country and its GDP and its progress, development, you should always try to concentrate on these four aspects, that is consumption, government spending, investment, and exports. Now, here also, what were the challenges? Suppose in an interview, it's UPSC, the interviewer may ask what were the challenges before the finance minister. Just let me know. So there you have minimum time. Now you have so many. See, data is always there. Continuously we read for the whole year, 2 years. We just keep on reading. What is important here is to interconnect various points, and try to present it. In the prelims exam, we try to eliminate things to get to the correct answer. In the main exam, we try to interconnect it and analyze the things and present it in a written format. And the similar in the interview, we just talk about it. So we should talk, in a logical sequence. So challenges. First of all, what were the challenges? Okay, now same CGI NX, right? So demand, jobs, credit, and government spending. On this point only, you can answer all the questions. Like, as I said, what were the challenges? Demand was not there, absolutely not there. Why? As you can see, a finance minister had to work on reviving demand. So what happened in the 2020 is the COVID pandemic, right? So what they had to do is they had to have prolonged lockdowns. Economy was shut down. Not many sectors were working. Few, just the essential services that were working. Others were, jobs were people in the construction, tourism, hospitality industries. They lost their jobs because the businesses had to shut down or temporarily stop due to lockdown. And because people lost their jobs, or they could not be any salary hikes, so there was not demand. So that was the challenge. Reviving demand was the first challenge. Okay. So whenever any investor or any economist see India is a consumption story. We have, what is the population? So these many people, if they even consume basic things, with the middle class growing very fast, for a country like India, consumption can only help it to grow, right? So when we always say, investors always say, foreign companies will always come to India, like Walmart got into Flipkart. Then we have Amazon, we have Google, Alphabet. Then we have Facebook, Twitter. You see most of the subscribers, or most of the people using, majority of the people would be from India and the China. So China was a consumer story. Now India has attained that status with the kind of population that we have, right? But in 2017-18, NSS came up with a number, and in that they said from 2011 to 2018, the rural consumption have reduced. Okay, urban consumption has increased, but rural consumption has reduced. But most of the majority of the population stays in the rural area, so the net effect was overall decrease in the consumption for the country, right? So as I said, consumption was this consumption. This has reduced. So how would it help to increase the GDP? So we have to increase this C factor, that is the consumption. So that was a challenge before her. We have seen in November, December, that numbers are very, exciting. Auto sales have increased. Retail registrations, retail home, real estate registrations have gone up. But we have to sustain it, right? Sustenance of that demand is very important. Maybe higher middle class, or the people who are having stable jobs, okay, they could save so many bucks because of the lockdown, and they could not spend, they could not do hoteling, partying, or tourism, whatever. They wanted to buy automobile, but they could not buy because of the lockdown. Now they saved money in the 2 quarters, they have gone up, and it's kind of revenge buying they're doing it. So it's just a sugar rush up. It may not be sustainable. So we want to have, as a country, we should have that demand which is sustainable, right? As I said, people lost the jobs, lost their income. Okay, so now those companies which have lost their businesses, They had to, come up again and do fresh investment, take fresh loans. So we have to have, restart that cycle of loans and investment to create the jobs, which will create more income in the hands of the people and which will increase the domestic demand. Okay. Then, as I said, the coronavirus came and it just destroyed, what we are doing, and what we are saying. We're boosting about our whatever infrastructure, but when you see health infrastructure was a problem, and it is understood by everybody, everyone in the government. So they have what they for them was a even for the government in their economic survey 21, they've clearly stated that GDP, 2.5 to 3% of the GDP, the amount should be spent on the healthcare so that it becomes accessible, affordable, and accountable. Okay, these were the three problems that we saw in our healthcare system. People were not able to access because they were not sufficient number of services available. You have seen the news. We heard the news that people were not getting the hospital beds. There were not enough ICUs or the oxygen supply. Even MPs and MLA, their relatives could not get the hospital beds. So these sort of news we always heard. In the next phase, in April, May, we heard about the hospitals. They were charging 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 lakhs of rupees for a patient. And there was no guarantee of it being the effective also. So affordability was a problem. So many people lost their lives. Poor people, they just got admitted and into the public hospitals, and they lost their lives. So even economic surveys talking about this healthcare spending to be increased to 2.5 to 3% of the GDP. Okay, the next challenge we see. So any challenge for the country will start with the demand, then the jobs. Okay, now the third point is credit and the government spending. So let's go and we'll start with the credit part. Now, credit part is the loans that industries get for creating industries or expanding the industries. What we have seen in the last decade, you always in 2008, 9, 10, 11, there were always a problem of industrialists talking about they are not getting clearances for so many years, and it is just delaying their projects and increasing the gestation period. Currently, we are getting the clearances on time, but financing is a problem for industries. Okay, because of the bitter experiences they had with the kind of NPAs bank faced, the toxic assets they had. Okay, so again with this COVID and the kind of economic impact it had, that has created a problem for so many businesses. Small businesses just lost their position, and the bigger businesses like they got the major shares in various industries. The bigger companies got bigger, and the smaller companies had to lose their position in the market. So in order to start them again, we need a credit, and that is why we have written that there needs to be something to be done in the banking sector, real reforms to be done. Okay, so that was the challenge before her, how to make your banking sector to go ahead proactively give loans. This banks do not want to give loans for this very strategically very important projects, but the long gestation period projects like 20 years, 25 years, they are really reluctant about it. So what can be done? If not bank, then financial sectors like insurance companies, your corporate bond markets, your capital market, money market. Government and the finance minister had to work on it to improve the financial sector. Okay, so that loans can be availed by the investors for investment, the businessmen for to expand their thing. So here are some data points that is written. I'll share this PPT with you. So this is like new investment, like gross fixed capital formation is what we call as a new investment as percentage of GDP is expected to fall 24% this year, and this is a 20-year low. when in 2007-8 we had an investment rate of 36%, which is gradually declining. Okay. So and even there's one more point is what this RBI's financial stability report saying this year, share of bad loans could shoot up to 14% by September 21, and this is double of what we had in September 20. So now things may look okay, but because of the moratorium on the loan payment and the restructuring of the loans, the NPA numbers are not clearly out, right? When after a couple of years or a year, if they come out, this will actually increase her the FM's pain point, right? So financial stability report is saying now this is going to shoot up to 14%. So she had to look on that side also. As I said, challenges may demand we've addressed, jobs we have addressed, credit, reforms in the banking sector, financial sectors. Job may, if you want to create jobs, you need to spend. Government need to spend. Now we will, because government doesn't have money, right? Where would government get money from? If the economy is not working fine, people are not, earning. They will not be able to pay income tax. Institutions or the corporations will not be able to pay their corporate tax. Companies would not be able to, pay the custom duty or the, GST. GST's collection was also very low in the last year. So where would government spend? And even if they spend, they have to borrow it. And borrowing, if you're borrowing, then you have to spend it very judiciously because you have to pay interest rate, right? So government, as I said, has to balance the growth, because if government don't spend, if they don't spend, there won't be any growth, because it's open ground. First, some big player has to come. He has to invest. He has to spend, and then only the other smaller players like industrialists, businessmen, and then the common people will get the confidence to invest, right? So government has to take the lead role, try to spend in the infrastructure, create assets. Using those assets, industries can come and expand their business. So as I said, tightrope of balancing the growth and fiscal concerns, because borrowing has already increased, fiscal deficit has touched like almost 10%. So government and the finance minister had to work on this. Okay, as I said, this investment target was 2.1 lakh crore for the last year. Okay, they were planning to disinvest or introduce IPOs, sell some stakes in IDBI, but they could not do it because market was not, the financial markets were not ready, and so many things, legal things or financial things. They could not complete the disinvestment target. And of course, because of the economic slowdown, we had a tax revenue which was very less. So this was the challenge, because as a government you get money from disinvestment, right? But she could not. She was expecting last year that she would get 2.1 lakh crore, but she did not get it, and she did not get any other tax revenues also. So she had to borrow it. Now this was the challenge. So in order to address these challenges, she is mentioned about these 6 pillars, 6 important pillars or the areas on which she is willing to work, and she's going to spend the money on it. So health and well-being, okay, physical and financial capital, infrastructure, inclusive development for aspirational India, then working on human capital, innovation, R&D, minimum government, maximum governance. Okay, so we're going to talk on these 6 pillars in the next slides. Before that, I'll just we'll try to give you some highlights of this budget. This may be a question in any of the prelims exam or the phase 1 exam of anything. This was a paperless budget, so they had to do something symbolic, and small things will actually be effective. So she's come up with this paperless budget. Okay, they did not print any any budget papers and distributed it among the MPs and other stakeholders. Okay, so it was the first paperless budget. They also came up with a mobile app on Android and OS that is called Union Budget mobile app. And MPSC may go ahead and ask who has developed that app. So it was NIC, National Informatics Center. And it was all made in India. So the tab now, we know the extent with which our MPSC and other people ask the question, to make it complicated, right, or to make it difficult. They may ask which brand it was. So it was a Samsung brand of tablet. Somebody asked the question, so we just mentioned it. It's a Samsung but made in India tab, and she had a backup tablet of Acer company. Okay, and she's come up with these tablets instead of this traditional bahi khata, which she that practice of carrying the leather briefcase also she just stopped it in 2019. Okay, now what is the peculiar thing about this budget is there are only 3 times before this budget this actually we had seen a contraction in GDP, right? So in NPSC mains or prelims, they may ask question which were these 3 years, or in more detail, what were the reasons for that contraction in the GDP. So 1957-58, because of the agricultural production collapse in the agricultural production. 65-66, Indo-Pak War. 72-73, there was a drought there, rains failed, and because of this they had a contraction. And this year, due to corona, we had a contraction, right? So as I said, government needs to spend, and they need to spend very judiciously. That is, they need to spend on the capital expenditure. So because the economy was already in the pains, even before corona, we were not doing really great. Okay, so as I said, government had to take initiative. Now they have taken initiative by spending more on the capital side. Okay, so they're saying they're going to spend 5.5 lakhs of crore rupees for the capital expenditure. Last time it was 4.39 lakhs. Okay, they're saying 11,000 of national highways to be completed. They're going to give. They've assured that minimum support price would be 1.5 times the cost of the production. Okay, for all the commodities, and they have a target of 1.7 lakhs disinvestment target, and fiscal deficit, as I said, 9.5%, almost touch 10% of GDP in the last year, and then in the next year she's trying to be little more careful, and she's keep it to 6.8%. Ideally, it should be 3% based on FRBM Act, but now it has escalated due to unprecedented condition that the whole world faced. So we had to stretch. Government had to spend a lot of money on various schemes, various packages, 3-4 packages. I mean, at least 6-7 packages, including packages of RBI. So all that has come from the borrowing, and that is part of fiscal deficit. Okay, so these are two important numbers. 9.5% was last year's fiscal deficit, and she's estimating 21-22 fiscal deficit at 6.8%, right? So now, as I said, these are the 6 pillars: health and well-being. Okay, health and well-being. Then we will go into the first pillar, that is health and well-being. Okay, so when it comes to health, they are trying to focus their attention on 3 areas: preventive, curative, and well-being. Okay, so whenever any question comes on what has government done on health, what they could have done better on health, these are the on the left hand side, I try to give some explanations or some facts or some important points. On the right hand side, I'm just putting the facts or putting the data points there. Okay, these are available on the right side. Whatever you can see is available everywhere. Okay, you can refer PIB website that has very good data. Others have copied from them, and some they have missed some points, they have added some points. So PIB is a good source. So I've tried to copy it from PIB. Okay, so in the health, what is more important? So when you get a men's question, or when you have an essay on health, on well-being, right? Any point, or even interview question, what you have to do in order to improve the health, what country needs to do is to improve health infrastructure, right? they can concentrate on their primary, secondary, tertiary health facilities. They can work on their R&D. All this sort of infrastructure is very important for improving your health, and that is not the only thing that is to be taken care. We should also concentrate on nutritional aspect. Okay, and uh, along with the food, along with the nutrition, we should also concentrate on two important points, that is water and air. So these are the 4 points you should always keep in mind while answering the question, or while giving answers in the interview question. Okay, so as I said, budget outlay is was 94 crores, 94,000 crores last year. She's given 2.223 lakh crore this year. So it is 137% higher. That shows their priority, and that shows the need of the hour. She had to increase. Otherwise, it would have been, we are lucky that we could survive as a country, but then we really need to, improve our health aspect. Okay. So now they have come up with a new scheme, PM Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana. They are giving 64,000 crore for the next 6 years, and this is addition to the National Health Mission, right? So these are the interventions in this scheme, Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana. Now these can come in the prelims. So what sort of question comes, like what is the outlay? Under which ministry it has come? What is the intervention? So these are the interventions. So they're supporting health and wellness centers. They're integrating the public health labs. They are going to strengthen this National Center for Disease Control. Okay. They're going to establish the critical care hospitals in so many districts and so many central institutions. Then there would be a portal, and which is to be expanded to all states and UD. That is called the Integrated Health Information Portal. Okay. That would connect all public health labs. As I said, integrated public health labs, right? So there would be a this portal which will connect all public health labs, right? So you should know these the points which are made bold. You should actually research more and try to find out what are they, right? Again, operationalizing of 17 new public health units, strengthening of 33 existing public health units at the point of entry. Okay, why they have done it? Because of the corona pandemic, and in order to control such communicable diseases. You see that you may get a question, in mains or interviews, saying that corona happened, and what really they did, or what really government did with respect to corona pandemic. So these are the points which you can actually write it, like strengthening of the 33 existing public health units at the point of entry. So in order to avoid such pandemics coming from the other countries, right? They are doing, they're strengthening this NCDC. Okay, what it does is it does R&D on epidemiology and control of such communicable diseases. Okay, so such things you can actually write. So we'll go to the next step. And again, emergency operation centers and 2 mobile hospitals. As I said, these are the key points that they are trying to do it. National Institution of One Health. Now, this comes as a part of diplomacy, or the SARC related question. Will be a institution that India is going to set up, which will be a regional platform, research platform for WHO, Southeast Asia. Okay, and what they're going to do is collaborative and transdisciplinary approach for any pandemic or any such disease, and it should get completely addressed. For that, they are going to do this National Institution for One Health. Okay. So this was Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana. For a, as I said, this is budget is a very critical and a most important current event for that particular year. So you can give 2 to 3 days and read it continuously, and keep on reading it. You will get to know about the various aspects, and it will go into your mind, and you won't have to really mug up the things. You just keep on reading 2-3 days, keep on practicing it, then you'll get to know what is there in the budget. So 3 days, 4 days are very important, and that can actually help you for the rest of your year, in all sort of examinations. Okay, as I said, COVID-19 vaccine, she has promised 35,000 crores, and she's saying that if there's a need, they can give more also. Okay. One more point on the health is, as I said, they are working on preventive, right? In preventive, you have this vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine and pneumococcal vaccine. This is made in India by Serum Institute of India. They're doing it. I think their existing 5 states are actually using it, but they are going to actually roll it out to all the states, and which can actually avoid more than 50,000 child deaths annually. So this is again very important point that they have given in the budget. So the next point is Mission 2.0, Poshan 2.0, right? So there was actually the Poshan Abhiyan. What they are trying to do is they are trying to merge it, make it more comprehensive, and merge the supplementary nutrition program and Poshan Abhiyan. So just go ahead and try to read about these 2 programs. And in that Mission Poshan 2.0, they have merged it to strengthen nutritional content, delivery, outreach, and outcome. So these are the keywords which you actually should always use in your mails answers or even the interview answers. The delivery, outreach, and outcome. Outreach is like it should reach to the intended recipients. It should give out the results. It's not like we have given 10,000 vaccines to 10,000 children, but how many deaths we could avoid it. How many things we could avoid because of what we did. Okay, so that is the actual outcome. So if you're giving protein supplements, did it really help people to children to avoid stunting or all sort of problems? So that outcome, it's not just output, but outcome is very important. So strengthen the nutritional content, delivery, outreach, and outcome. They have come up with Poshan 2.0. Okay, and it would be an intensified strategy to improve nutritional outcome across 112 aspirational districts. Okay, so this was a nutrition. Okay, as I said, they are working on health infrastructure. So health infrastructure, we have seen all these interventions. Hospitals karna hai, primary, secondary, tertiary, research institutions karna hai. Okay, health labs karne hai, portal banana hai. All sort of stuffs come under health infrastructure. Nutrition, we have shown Poshan 2.0. Now water supply. Okay, and the clean air. Water supply, we'll see Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. The Jal Jeevan Mission was already there. Now they have come up with this mission for urban areas and giving 2.87 lakh crores over next 5 years. So these numbers may not be important, but I just could not skip them. And what they're going to do under Jal Mission Urban is they're going to give universal water supply to all 4378 urban local bodies. We have almost 4,500 urban local bodies. They're going to give it supply. There's still many urban local bodies like Nagar Panchayats and all. They still don't have a good water supply. Okay, so giving the universal water supply, giving the tap connection to 2.86 crore of households, and the waste management, solid waste management. If it comes to urban area, the water supply and the drainage and the waste management is a problem. They're trying to address it in the under water, clean water. Okay, and Urban Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0, they are coming up with. In that, what they are going to do is, I've written in on the left hand side, Urban Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. So as you know, we also stay in the cities. We must be knowing that these arrangements are being done. What is being done is a wastewater treatment and complete fecal sludge management, the source segregation of garbage. You get you get to see such things, wet garbage and the dry garbage. Okay, reduction in the single use of plastic, reduction in the air pollution by effectively managing the waste from construction demolition activities. Because when it comes to cities and urban areas, you will always have the demolition and the construction going on, right? So that really creates the air pollution here. So they're saying that they're going to manage it in a better way. Okay, and then, as I said, Urban Swachh Bharat Mission was 2.0. is what they are trying to come up with. Now the clean air. Again, clean air is always a problem. More you are developed, more you have problem with this pollution of air and noise and water. So what they have done here is they have come up with a long-awaited vehicle scrapping policy. You know, uh, the vehicles get older and they become more, fuel inefficient, right? So when you buy a vehicle in the first year, it will give you mileage of say 50 kilometer per hour per liter. Okay, slowly and gradually it will go to 30. Another 15-20 years, it may give you 25, 20 kilometers per liter. Okay, so this comes with a, gradually the efficiency will go down. Okay, so and that will actually go for a creation of creating pollution, right? So clean air, government is coming with voluntary vehicle scrapping policy. Just concentrate on the word voluntary. For the time being, it is voluntary, and they are going to observe it and probably make it a mandatory vehicle scrapping policy. Okay, and this is going to start from April 1, 22. Important figure. It's not from April 1, 21, but 22. Okay, so what they are going to do is old and unfit vehicles. Okay, now what would be the nature of it? So why this policy? What is the thinking behind this vehicle scrapping policy? What is going to be the benefits of this policy to the government, to the people, and to the industry? Uh, we are facing now. This is the health related aspect, and we are looking for the clean air, aspect of in the cities as well as in the rural areas, mostly in the cities. Okay, so these vehicles, there are 50 lakhs of such vehicles, over 51 lakhs of such vehicles which are 20 years of old. Okay, now they are trying to introduce this policy. If you're owning a commercial vehicle, if it is 15 years old, you have to go a test fee. There would be a fitness test. Okay, and if you're a personal vehicle holder, after 20 years, you'll have to go this fitness test. Okay, there would be automated centers which will be carrying out these tests. Okay, and if your vehicle is found to be unfit, you are going to give it to the scrap, and there would be some incentive for you to give it to the scrap. Okay, so यहाँ पे because of the old vehicle will be fuel inefficient. Okay, fuel inefficient meaning it will consume more oil. It will consume more oil, meaning the oil import would increase, and that will actually have a problem for government. Okay, it will create pollution. That is a problem for government and the people. So, and anyways, we had faced this 4 years of 3 to 4 years of slowdown in automobile sector. So automobile sector is also going into the recession. They also had to actually give some. There should be demand for the automobile sector to grow. So this in this policy, they're trying to achieve these four things: reduce the pollution. Now this, with this scrapping policy, they're saying there would be pollution reduction by 25%. Okay, there would be now the technical point here is you need to spend around 45k 45,000 rupees for one test fee. Okay, and after say your vehicle is 20 years old. Okay, so 40,000 is the cost. Again, you will have to pay road tax. Okay, and there would be a possible green tax which will be 10 to 25% of the road tax. Okay, and this is differing from city to city based on the pollution level. So if you're staying in Pune, this is intermediate level of pollution. They may charge 15% of road tax. Okay, so eh, this would increase your cost by say 70,000 or 80,000 or 1 lakh of rupees, and you have to do it after every 5 years. So as an individual, we'll always think, so let's just scrap this vehicle and buy a new vehicle. So we are going to, and everybody will think in the similar way and will try to go for a new vehicle, because anyways we have to spend for this renewing this road tax and all. Mileage is also very less, and the pollution is always there. So this will actually, scrapping policy will increase the automobile sales, and it will always, make people will always think about why not go for electric vehicle then, or new technologies, or green fuel like CNG and all. So it will also be helpful for the new technologies to grow, to expand. Electric vehicles can also expand their presence. And of course, fuel efficiency will actually help to import bill to go down. So that is what they are trying to achieve in the scrapping policy, which would be voluntary for the time being. Now, this was the health and well-being, in which we have concentrated on health infrastructure, nutrition with the Poshan 2.0, water supply with Swachh Bharat, and I think, what was it? Urban Swachh Bharat and Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. Okay, and clean air with the scrapping policy. So these are the 3-4 points you need to concentrate on. Now comes the physical and financial capital and infrastructure. So health is important. Now the second point, what is important is the infrastructure, right? So if you guys find it little heavy and you need a break, we can take a 5-minute break. Okay, so health and well-being, we have addressed the first pillar. Second pillar would be physical and financial capital and infrastructure. As a country, infrastructure is very important. And how are they going to address the problem with the problems that are with infrastructure and infrastructure projects? So very important thing, what comes when infrastructure, you heard about infrastructure as a project. So it's a long gestation period, 15 to 20 years for a particular dam to build, or roads are going on years and years. They're getting built, the flyovers, railway lines, power projects. So for any private sector to get into it and establish, they need a huge money, because it's very capital intensive thing to do. And for that they need finances, and finances, banks and financial institutions would find it very difficult, because they cannot lend it for that long period. So banks are always reluctant to give loans now, and because of that, nationally important projects are not getting enough money for its completion. So government understood this background. Everybody knows everything, but managing finances is always a task, right? So in that, what they have tried to do is they have introduced this national infrastructure pipeline, which was announced in December 2019. This is the whole of government exercise, where all departments, whatever concerned departments would take part, and will try to do it collectively, so that infrastructure projects will get the kick, or they will get the speed with which speed and the clearances from all the departments, all concerned departments. Now in this year, in this project, they have increased the projects from 6,800 approximately to 7,400. So they have increased the projects under this NIP plan, and 217 projects worth 1.1 lakhs crores already completed. This is data which can be ignored, but again, they are giving just what is the status, current status. So infrastructure mein, what government is trying to do is to create an institutional structure. Okay, now there would be thrust on monetizing assets and enhance the share of capital expenditure in the central and state budget. Okay, these are the three things which government is trying to do. Now institutional structure. Now, as I said, infra financing, because of the high gestation period and the big amount of big ticket loans, banks are not really willing to give such loans. So what government is coming up with a development financial institutions. इसके लिए उसने 20,000 crore rupees दिए हैं, and what this development financial institution will do is it will act as a provider, enabler, and catalyst for infra financing. Infra financing is a problem. It's a complicated problem. People and the stakeholders are not really ready to give the loans. But now here, this development financial institution, that is DFI, would act as a provider. They will finance also. They will enable the finance also, and they will help other institutions to act as a catalyst for infra financing. And what government is expecting, that this institution would give loan of around 5 lakh crores in the next 3 years. So this is what they're planning to do in under infrastructure. Okay. So in the next, yes, as I said, creating institutional structure. What they have tried to create here is a development financial institution. Now thrust on monetizing assets. So monetizing assets, like जो भी assets है government के पास, they have lot of assets, lot of land, they have lot of industries, they have lot of CPSCs they own. Now they are not being managed well, or they are not being utilized it. So उसका जो value रहता है ना, उसका actually value what do you say, उसको unlocking of value, yes, unlocking the value. रेलवे के पास बहुत सारा land है, okay, but they're not being commercialized. The lock is not being the value of it's not been unlocked. So government is basically, what you can say, is a kind of privatization only. Whatever assets they have, they are trying to make money out of it. That is called as an asset monetization. In that, they're going to, there would be national monetization pipeline of potential brownfield infra assets to be launched. Then they are going to, if they're going ahead with some pipeline, they are going to make a asset monetization dashboard for tracking the progress and visibility to the investors. Now, government can't do it alone. They need private investors as well as foreign investors to invest into the infrastructure projects. So for that, for make them convenient, for make them, for make it a transparent, they are going to introduce this asset monetization dashboard. Okay. And as I said, they have lot of assets like toll roads, they have operational toll roads, they have transmission lines. Okay. They have railway land, they have lot of airports which are in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, sports stadium, warehousing assets of various CPSCs. Okay, all these assets, they are going to monetize it and going to get some money out of it. Okay, so this is the as I said, thrust on the monetizing assets, creating of institutional structures. We have covered these 2 points, right? So whenever you will get a question on infrastructure, you'll always think government kya kar raha hai is time. The government is working on institutions, government is working on asset monetization. And then we'll go ahead with the third part of infrastructure, that is road and highway infra. We've seen 2 parts. Now we'll see the third part, that is road and highway infra, in which Bharatmala Pariyojana project, which is already being take place. What they're going to, she has said here, she's given some data about the status of this project, in which she's saying 13,000 crore of length road contracts are already awarded of 3.3 lakhs crore. 3,800 kilometers of roads are already completed, and in the near future she is going to give another 8,500 crore. Okay. Again, one more aim they're trying to do is 11,000 kilometers of national highway corridors to be completed by March 2022. Again, many economic corridors and expressways plans in various parts of the country. Like, you have the data, you can actually refer it in the PIB. That may not be useful, but if you're going for interview and some of the corridor or expressway is coming in your state or in your district, you should have idea about it. What expressway government has planned in your area? They may ask you. Okay, so such things you should always focus on. Then, as I said, in the roads may actual roads, so they are constructing. Now they are concentrating on having advanced traffic management system in all new 4 and 6 lane highways. So the traffic management here, that is again a problem. You have the infrastructure, but the traffic management is a problem. So they're trying to have this advanced traffic management. So in the left hand side, as you see, you will have this outlay of 1.18 lakh crore. Okay, so for road and transport and highway ministry, they have given 1.18 lakh crores, out of which 1.08 is for capital, and this is the highest ever. So whenever it comes highest ever, lowest ever, lowest in 20 years, these numbers are important and critical for any objective exam. Okay, and as I said, in the traffic management, advanced traffic management, what is included? You have a speed radars where the ministry would have control over the speed of vehicles. The variable message signboards would be there, which will clarify about the blind spots or accidental spots, whatever message they have to do, any helpline numbers or speed limits they want to display. So these sort of signboards and GPS-enabled recovery vans to have a better visibility about the recovery vans near roads. So in the infrastructure, we have seen road and highway. Now the second part is railway. We used to have a different, separate railway project, but this Niti Aayog and committee has, advised government to abolish with it, because the significance of a railway as a department has come down. Spending has also come down. In the colonial time, it was the most important, department, which is as good as equal to the level of government. So now, with the significance of defense, road transport increasing, railway has become a less significant. So they have actually merged it with a general budget, and now they don't have a separate railway budget. So as I said, on the left hand side, 1.1 lakh of crore rupees to the railway budget, out of which 1.07 lakh is for capital expenditure. Okay. Now, you may get a question on railway, its status, and what government has done, tried to do it in this financial budget. So what they're doing here is a national rail plan. Now, railway is a very, very important catalyst for the growth of the country, right? So they have made a plan of 10 years, which is called as a national rail plan. Okay, they're making our rail system to be future ready, and that too by 2030. So in that, what they're trying to do, on the left hand side, if you see, to address the inadequacies in the railway infrastructure, जो भी inadequacies है, जो problems है, limitations है, they're trying to address them. Okay. Increase the share, the model share of railway. See, when you are a consumer and you want to you have an option of road, air, and railway, it has been observed that railway has been chosen less, maybe for so many reasons. So government wants to increase the modal share of railways so that people choose more railways, right? Omkar is requesting control. Shall I allow him? I'll just not do anything.
No, sir, no, okay. Sir, it was by mistake. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Okay. Then improvising the technology and the speed. It has been the average freight speed for the country, for the Indian Railways, 22 kilometers. Okay. Now they are planning to put it to 50 kilometers of freight speed, because speed is very important. You have seen आपल्या मालगाड्या बघतो आपण, हळू जात राहतात. माल पोहोचणार कसा आणि किती वेळ लागणार, किती इम्पॉर्टंट आहे. So if you want to bring, say, Murrah buffaloes from Haryana, it will take 9 days for us to reach in Maharashtra. So 9 days में उसमें से 10% buffaloes fall sick and they may die soon, or they may not give you sufficient milk. So इसीलिए freight का speed है वो बढ़ाना है from 22 kilometers to 50 kilometers. Okay, and convenience भी बढ़ाना है, and reduce the logistic cost. Logistic cost बहुत है. You have a company, the plant somewhere in Andhra Pradesh, you want to bring it to Maharashtra or say Goa or Gujarat, takes a lot of time, lot of cost is also involved. So when it comes to railway, simple 4 things: infrastructure improve करना है, speed improve करना है, cost कम करनी है, convenience बढ़ाना है. Whenever you get a question, you just think about as a passenger, you just think what you need in your railway. You need a better infrastructure. You need speed. You need cost should be less. If you're a businessman and you want to transfer your goods from one destination to another destination, you put yourself in that place and you can start thinking about what government has done. So National Rail Plan, as I said, these are the things government is looking for it, and now they're saying हम लोग क्या क्या करेंगे, वेस्टर्न ईस्टर्न डेडिकेटेड फ्राइट कॉरिडोर से जून 2022 तक कंप्लीट करेंगे. हाई डेंसिटी नेटवर्क जो है उसमें ना हम लोग ट्रेन प्रोटेक्शन सिस्टम करेंगे ताकि जो ट्रेन कोलिजन होता है ड्यू टू ह्यूमन एरर दैट कैन बी स्टॉप्ड. विस्टाडोम LHB कोच है which will actually improve the traveling experience. As I said, convenience and the experience. In that, they are trying to work on this. 100% electrification of the broad gauge routes by December 23, and so many dedicated freight corridors they have actually announced. So if you have interview and some of the dedicated freight corridors are coming into your area, you should actually see them. That was it for the railway. Now urban infrastructure, as you've seen, this is physical infrastructure mein, physical and financial capital and infrastructure. Infrastructure mein we've seen road, we have seen railway. Now we'll see urban infrastructure. Urban infrastructure mein urban ka transport infrastructure. So you have seen we've got metro in Mumbai that has really helped to address some of the traffic issues in Mumbai. Delhi metro has been very successful. So government has tried to replicate these models across the country. Now what they're saying is metro projects are operational in 27 cities. 702 kilometers of metro tracks are already operational. Another 1,000 kilometers of metro rail under construction. Okay. Now the transport problem and infrastructure problem is very crucial. If you don't have good public transport, you will go for a private transport that will be a cost on you, okay, as a consumer. Then it will be a cost on environment, okay, and that will be a cost on infrastructure also, because you will have less roads and more vehicles on them. That will cause not just traffic problems, pollution problems, but so many problems. So government wants to do is they want to increase the share of public transport. Okay, so what they're doing, they're coming up with this metro network. Now metro projects are little costly, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to introduce this Metro Lite and Metro Neo technologies, just the way we have in softwares, right? If you want to consume less data or something like that, we have a light version of our application. Similarly, these probably I don't know about these technologies, but these are the technologies which will cost you less, but with the same experience and convenience and safety. These are three important things that are being addressed, okay, in the tier 2 cities and the peripheral areas of the tier 1 cities. So in order to expand the metro rail network more with less cost, they are coming up with these two technologies, Metro Lite and Metro Neo, right? And there would be new scheme which will be, as I said, share of the public bus transport services should go up. So they are trying to do this with a new scheme, and they're trying to go for this PPP model, for running this 20,000 buses. Maybe they will buy the buses and will give some private carrier to actually manage the buses, or whatever. What could be the possible arrangement they can come up with. So that will improve their performance and experience for the consumers, and people will go more for public bus transport. Okay, so transport, road, rail, metro covered. Now we are going for power infra, right? Infrastructure also includes this power infrastructure. So what they're saying, discoms are the weakest links here, okay, distribution companies, electricity distribution companies. So they want to make it competitive, so and they want to enhance the viability of the discoms. So what they're doing to do is reform based result linked power distribution sector scheme. Okay, now finance minister is saying that whatever reforms that we did, we could produce this much of install this much of power at 139 of gigawatt. This is important number. She's just tried to give it. And as I said, mobile number portability, what they're trying to do to enhance or to trigger that competition among various discoms, right? This distribution companies, they are going to introduce portability of electricity supply. Okay, and they are thinking on such creating such framework where as a consumer you can just choose whatever electricity supply you wish to buy electricity from. So you want from Reliance, from Adani, from Tata, from Maharashtra State's company. You can choose it based on your experience, or based on the cost, based on the electricity failures, or based on whatever convenience that you have, right? So this will actually kick in some competition there, and people on these discounts will try to improve them. Okay, so as I said, assistance for infra creation. Now government is trying to provide some assistance for prepaid smart metering, feeder separation, upgradation of system, and this they will tie it to the financial improvements. And there will be they are also coming up with a comprehensive national hydrogen energy mission that they're going to launch it. So hydrogen energy is also what they are trying to introduce. You may get some questions in the prelims that saying that hydrogen energy पे क्या हो रहा है, ठीक है? After power, we have ports, shipping, and waterways. So what they're trying to do is, so whenever government manages anything, okay, there would be inefficiencies, there would be inconvenience to the consumers, there would be so many problems. So what this government is trying to do is this major ports, they they will be handed over to private partners for manage operations and management, right? So that will be on a PPP mode. So on the ports, they're trying to improve the performance by going on PPP mode. Okay. Again, two schemes they have introduced to promote the flagging of merchant ships. Okay, they are going to give some subsidy to the Indian companies. Okay, so our ministries and central public sector enterprises, they float some tenders, but most of the tenders are are being taken by global giants. But what government is trying to do is to give subsidy to the Indian companies so that they also become successful in getting those tenders and getting those projects. And then recycling capacity is what they have said. Again, it comes to petroleum and natural gas. Ujjwala scheme. Now they have extended to another 1 crore of households. Actually, they have covered 8 crores. Okay, 8 crores of households. And if you come to this is petroleum and natural gas, what they're trying to do is city gas distribution network to be added in 100 more districts in the next 3 years. You see, there is a natural gas policy and so many things are going on in this sector. So, so if you take CNG in Maharashtra also, you have very few districts where this is available. Say Nashik, Pune, Mumbai, probably. So when you go into the inside the state or all, there you don't have such city gas distribution network, and you don't have the green fuel there. So 100 more districts are planned in the next 3 years, they're saying. So for JNK, they're going to give a gas pipeline project, and they have also talked about independent gas transport system operator setting up. So we have talked about infrastructure. Okay, now we'll talk about financial capital. Okay, we will cover the second pillar and then probably we'll stop. So financial capital, what they're trying to do in the financial capital currently. So as I said, government doesn't have much revenues. Okay, but government want to spend more. So where does government get money from? They borrow it, and where, as I said, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth point, government is going to borrow 12 lakhs crore from the markets. Okay, she has said that we're going to the markets to borrow this 12 lakh crore, right? So who's going to borrow? The investors in our country and investors in the foreign country, foreign investors and the domestic investors, right? So, but if they don't have clarity, there is no transparency in that, there are clashes in the acts. Okay, how would they come up and invest in your government bonds or sovereign bonds or whatever. So government has understood this problem and they are trying to consolidate for making this securities market more comprehensive and rationalized. They are going to consolidate all these 4 acts or regulations or whatever: SEBI Act, Depositories Act, Securities Act, and Government Securities Act. Because when it comes to Securities Act, na, securities like bonds and all, government जो bond करते हैं, institutions जो bond करते हैं, companies जो bond करते हैं, वो investors को बेचते हैं. Investors buy it, okay, give the money to government or to the corporations, and government and the corporations use this money for their use, and by the maturity they'll again give that money along with whatever interest they have decided. So this is how the securities market work. Because government needs more money, and because there are so many problems with multiple laws, they're trying to consolidate this. And in the securities market, we had these many watchdogs: SEBI, depositories, government. Okay, so and each one had their own laws or acts. So they are trying to consolidate it and come up with a single securities market code. They have what will happen with this? I have written in the left hand side, as I said, it will simplify the regulatory framework. So many laws, so many interpretations. It's very difficult to understand what can we expect as an investor. So people generally law or acts देख के वो उसमें डर जाते हैं. So people don't invest because once it gets into the legal, then it becomes very difficult, right? So this will simplify and reduce the compliance cost. Because एक एक्ट में ये बोलते हैं, दूसरे एक्ट में वो compliance है, तीसरे एक्ट में वो compliance है. Compliance बहुत बढ़ता है because government or the businessmen, they want to concentrate on their, they want to focus on their own strength. They don't want to go into the CS and to the auditors and to the company secretaries to do this compliance. This will actually increase the cost. So with this one streamlined act, the compliance cost will come down. If compliance costs come down, compliance would actually improve. So suppose you are a taxpayer. Now you have say 50,000 tax to be paid, but in order to comply, you need to give say 80,000 to the auditors or to the company secretaries. How would you pay that? You would definitely not pay it. So if you reduce the compliance cost, the compliance would definitely improve. Reduce the friction among the rules. As I said, multiple rules, multiple interpretations in a single code. It will enhance the transparency and it will boost the confidence of the investors to come and invest. Okay, and thus improve the capital market ecosystem. As I said, capital market, money market, capital market, where you get the loans or get the funds for long term, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Okay, so the capital market is very important for the infrastructure of a country to grow and to to develop. That is why whenever infrastructure comes, the financial markets or the capital market would definitely have a place, very important place in it. Because without funds, you cannot really improve your infrastructure. As I said, under financial capital, they are saying, जो गिफ्ट IFSC है, उसमें वर्ल्ड क्लास फिनटेक एस्टैब्लिश करेंगे, उसके लिए सपोर्ट देंगे. These two important things which may be asked in interview or mains question is the investor charter. Okay, as an investor, you should know all your rights. Okay, so they are coming with some charter in which rights of all financial investors across all financial products by SEBI and okay products will be will be coming, and who is looking into it? SEBI and IRDAI, because SEBI is a regulator for the capital markets, and IRDAI is regulator for insurance market. As you know, insurance are the long-term commitments by the consumers. So when we pay premium to insurance companies, that is actually being utilized by these insurance companies to give loans to the infrastructure projects, long-term infrastructure projects. So if you want to improve infrastructure, you need to increase your funds. And funds, where are you going to get it from? From capital market and from insurance companies. So insurance companies in SEBI, as a regulator, they are considering this investor charter. They have actually started working on this investor charter. Similarly, last year के budget में we had a taxpayer charter. So उसमें क्या था? It had a statutory backing. Maybe उसमें rights and obligations of the taxpayer as well as tax department. We have come to know that बहुत सारा harassment होता है. There's a lot of harassment, lot of corruption happening when you actually interact with, department interacts with the, assessees. So that needs to be stopped, and government has taken it very seriously. And in order to address that, as a taxpayer, whenever any income tax notice comes, we actually feel scared. Okay, so we should not feel scared, and we should have a charter with us where we should know what are our rights and what are our obligations. So that is being taken care. So if we have that charter, what is happening? There will be a trust between the taxpayer and the department. There would be transparency because everybody will be on the same page. They'll have idea about it. Compliance will also increase. And as I said, e-assessment and e-appeal, they have already, when you have your friends in IRS, you'll come to know about what is happening there. They have started assessment. So any assessee officer assessment officer, income tax officer, he or she doesn't come to know who is the assessor, not even the name. Okay, whatever required information needs to be known, that only is forwarded to him or her. And this is called as a faceless assessment and a faceless appeal. That is already being taken care to reduce the corruption and to stop the harassment of the taxpayers by the department. So this is a kind of reform. They have done it, and they want to do it for the taxpayers. They have done it. Now they are proposing it for investors also. Okay, so yeah. Now insurance, as I said, FDI in the FDI limit in the insurance from 49 to 74%. I think they did it in 2015. They grew from 25% to 49%, and this year they have increased the limit from 49 to 74%. Okay, so that will allow foreign ownership and control with the safeguards. Now they have mentioned about the safeguards here also. So what are the safeguards? A majority of the directors and key management persons would be resident Indians, and 50% people on the board will be in the independent director. That is what safeguard they have taken care. Now, why FDI is important? Because insurance need to grow, penetration needs to be increased. For that, more funds to come, right? So where are the funds going to come from? You have to have overseas capital inflows, right? So this is what they're trying to achieve through FDI increase, increase in the FDI limit. Okay, so what would happen with this FDI increase? They're saying this would raise the fund to ensure solvency in the line with growing business needs. See, anything can happen. Insurance company will have their own calculation, but something like COVID happens, and with more intensified quantity, if it happens, people will go there for if it is a health insurance, many people admit themselves in the hospitals. Their expenditure will increase. In such cases, they should have such solvency fund which can actually save them at the time of such disasters. Attract overseas capital inflows. It will expand the sector. It will increase the competition, and it will for the if foreign companies are coming, they are cash rich. They may and as an insurance company, they may be good in investment. So whatever money they get, they may invest in an efficient way, and they may get more returns. So they can offer insurance products at a lesser cost. So if that is happening, then actually it will increase the competition, and it will actually give consumers a relief of less cost for the insurance, and of course employment generation. More the penetration, more will be the employment generation. Okay, if 100% FDI is already in the insurance intermediaries. जो insurance intermediaries रहते हैं, brokers, consultants, reinsurance brokers, third party agents, then corporate agents, surveyors, loss assessors, they had already have 100% FDI limit. Okay, so that was the insurance. Now comes the disinvestment. As I said, government needs money. Okay, what government can do for getting money is they're going to increase the revenue. Okay, increase the taxes, increase the compliance. so that they get more money into the taxes. Or what they can do is they can just go ahead and privatize their companies, their assets, monetizing assets or selling the assets. What is that called? Strategic, disinvestment. Okay, so in the last year, due to Corona, they could not complete their target. So they have reduced the target now to 1.75 lakh crores. Okay, from this investment. Okay, so what they are planning to sell this year. So last year they could not complete it, and now they are going to complete it with the disinvestment of BPCL, Air India, then Shipping Corporation, then this is Container Corporation, this is Idea Bank, then Bharat Earth Moving Limited, Pawan Hans. These are important names to be remembered for any competitive exam, the objective exams. Then they are again planning to privatize 2 more PSB, public sector banks, and 1 general insurance company. They have not actually given the name, but they're saying 2 banks, 2 public sector banks, and 1 general insurance company. They planned to do it in the last year, but they could not come up with the IPO of LIC. IPO of LIC is like they're going to sell some stakes of LIC to the common people, and they're going to list this company on the share market so that common people, common investors like us can actually invest into LIC, and would probably, if you list it on share market or the stock exchange, that will actually, people had, so many doubts about LIC, how it is managed, who is managing it, government is controlling it more, there is no transparency. So when it comes to comes on stock exchange, listed on stock exchange, it will actually increase the compliance. So that will improve the functioning and the management of LIC. Okay, they're saying central government is saying not just us, even states also should start disinvesting their, their state companies. Okay, and the assets. As I said, this investment is one way to get a lot of funds for the government. If government cannot increase the revenue, by getting the taxes, they are going to work on this investment and going to increase it. So as you can see, the level of disinvestment they are going to do here. Whatever land railway has or other ministries has, they are going to monetize it, and for that there would be special purpose vehicles. Okay, and again, they don't want the companies to be sick for the longer time and loss making companies. They want to get out of those companies or close those companies or give it to transfer it to some other private investors. So they are trying to revise this mechanism. Okay, again, for the banks recapitalization, they are giving 20,000 crore rupees to consolidate their financial capacity. As I said, yeah, so this was there's one more area that they are going to do it. They're going to this is a vision. This investment is their priority, and for that they are coming up with one concept called as a strategic sectors. Okay, so they're trying to, the ultimate aim is to privatize everything, right? So what they're going to do is to decide the priority. Okay, so they have come up with this concept called as a strategic sector, in which they would have a major bare minimum presence of public sector enterprises. Okay, and other privatized other sectors, they will go on privatizing it or merging it with other companies or subsidized with other CPSEs, or they will finally close it. Okay, so 4 strategic sectors are atomic energy, space, defense, transport, telecom, power, petroleum, coal, other minerals, banking, insurance, and other financial services. You may have to remember this for prelim type exams or RBI type exams. The 4 strategic sectors in which they are looking for bare minimum presence of government companies. And what they're saying, other CPSs can be privatized in near future, or they can be closed. So who will be privatized first, who will be privatized later, or who will not be privatized, that call is going to be taken by NITI Aayog. Okay, so this is probably the second pillar that we have covered: physical, financial, capital, and infrastructure. So we will actually, this is already 6:44. We'll stop here and probably resume again tomorrow, if it is fine. So there are another four pillars and few things that I want to talk on the fiscal position of the country and about some different schemes. So that can be taken tomorrow.